Hey guys, what's up? We are back with some more reactions after dark, and for the first time in the series, we're going to be reacting to something by Rotten Mango, and this is the Korea's Death Mall, which I don't know what to name this. You can see at the top there, it's just Korea's Death Mall, 502 dead and 40 missing. It's not like it's really a title of like a series or anything. It's just like a statement. This is Korea's Death Mall, and here's like the death count. So I don't know what to name this. I'll probably just have it be Korea's Death Mall, and then maybe in the title on YouTube, it probably will just be Korea's Death Mall. I don't know about the 502 dead and 40 missing part. Because the full thing is 502 dead and 40 missing inside high-end department store. But we'll probably just like keep it small for this. But we're reacting to this for the first time ever. Rotten Mango, as it was suggested to me, though. We need to talk about last episode real quick because Crowley kind of nicely screwed me over. He probably screwed himself over too, right? But I don't know if he said anything about this. But in that video, the footage of the people shooting at the car on the highway, which again, I don't think they shot at all, but that video is actually copyrighted. So the visuals for that video were copyrighted in that video. Thankfully, nothing, it's not like a copyright strike, it's just that footage is copyrighted. And so that video can no longer be monetized again. That's irrelevant. My channel's not monetized to begin with. It's just like that could have been much more serious than it was. Yeah, so just a heads up. That video, the it was the Amsterdam shooting, right? That's the one with the shooting. That video is a copyrighted video. If you didn't know that, so yeah, oof there. Not that that does anything. It's just something to know. That video is copyrighted. Also, again, as usual, if you have any suggestions, let me know. Tomorrow we're probably going to be doing The Void, then back to Rotten Mango if I enjoy watching this, though. I don't know if this is a in media res at the beginning of this, because I had the first few seconds play, obviously, when you start the video, and I had to roll back. Uh, she just starts talking, and I don't know if this is in media res or that's just the beginning of the video. That's just where we're starting with her talking. And if you don't know what I mean by in media res, it just means in the middle of the story. Like, because I know a lot of people like to do, oh, here's the highlights of the video at the very beginning, and then the rest of the video is the entire thing in the chronological order. But I don't know if we're doing that. We'll just have to see. And just as one last thing, I mean, you could probably already skip past this. Nobody's like listening to me and ramble on. I'm almost 100% sure. Like, nobody just sits here and watches the entire video. Nowadays, no one has the attention span or time for that. But obviously, I have been using B-Lock here as my model for this series, but I don't know if it will always be this, just because, I mean, it's not like it really matches the tone. And just, you could call me slash this channel a VTuber, but I make VTubers and I use an assortment of VTubers, a plethora of VTubers, because I make them myself, along with obviously the intro, the outro, any 3D stuff you see on the screen, any UI stuff, etc., is I've made. So we don't know if we'll stick with this forever, since I mean this is from an anime and it's not thematic. I mean, I have a bunch which I'll probably cycle through right now. They just like a bunch of these are just really old. So like B-Lock's the newest thing I've made to date, the bunny there. But this obviously is another horror one. It's the analog horror model I made a while. This one should be going up for sale eventually. I don't think I like finished it, even though it's like probably like a year old at this point. But I probably will get around to putting it on my shop once I start the little Shop of Cuties store, where you can just buy whatever all these these VTuber models that I have. So I mean, we have this one which is horror themed, and I have multiple other ones even after this one. We also have this one, which is also kind of old. I forget what key. Oops, which key here? There we go. Spins this because there's a key here in the back that spins. Pretty sure you can't even really see this on the like the backgrounds, but yeah, this is an old one as well. This one's really old now at this point. There's also another one that I have that's like even older, and I've probably used like a handful of times, if that. This one, like this is the one I was talking about. The last one was also kind of analog horror. Obviously, I have a theming here. I like putting monitors on heads. Uh, yeah, I have a couple of these ones. This one is just the one with the blood, the newest one. But again, this one's even older than the last one. This one's probably several years old now. I just had a thing for putting TVs and monitors as a replacement for heads. I'm not making this video like even longer than it should be because this is already gonna be like what 3 hours because her video's an hour. We usually double the time if there's talking. So if you find this interesting, I mean that's good. But I'm assuming like nobody's gonna sit here and watch me talk about these. There's still one more, which is like you could argue is me, like it's my VTuber. Like if I'm going to pick one to be me, it would be that one, which will be this next one. Which I mean, it's kind of crazy that this one I would consider to be like the model for the channel, the sunflower. Because I mean, sunflower is kind of like a motif I have going on online. I put sunflowers everywhere. But this is probably one of the very first, if not the first model I ever used on that channel. So this is the first model I made for myself. Like several years ago. I wouldn't be surprised if it was like 5 years ago. That seems like a bit much, but like 5 years ago. So this is also horror themed, and it's like the best one for the channel. But again, I don't know. Yeah, like I said, I don't know if I'll stick with B-Lock forever, but these are just the ones I could be using. It's just like none of these are really scream click on video. Like B-Lock's probably the best. Like I mean, I don't have like a anime waifu that's like strictly for myself because obviously just some random anime waifu would be the best pick. I mean, we have Barbara, which I'll just load in. Like we have Barbara, but Barbara's from a video game. I mean, this is like the best I could do for that. For just having an anime waifu, but again, this isn't original. And of course, there's the ones that I made for other people. But obviously, I can't use that, like the commission one I have. But yeah, anyways, we'll just get to the video now. I'm pretty sure everyone just skipped this part. Yeah, like so we were just talking about those. We're just gonna stick with B-Lock just because, again, I feel like it's the best I can have on the thumbnail right now that isn't any of the others. Since I don't have like a good anime waifu to throw up there, because again, I'm pretty sure like people are only gonna really click on these if they see a waifu on the screen for the most part. So we're kind of out of luck for that, even though I do have a couple. Again, one is commissioned for another person, and then Barbara there was from a video game. I don't like really using her too much outside of the video game that she belongs into, which is Eternal Return. But we could just get straight to it, assuming like everyone didn't immediately just like leave the video. Pretty sure like the watch time is going to be like what 2 minutes, and then immediately just dropped because I started talking about VTubers for like an hour. Yeah, let's get straight to it now. Like 8 minutes, 9 minutes into the video, we're finally going to watch this video.
Bada bing,
Cool.
bada boom.
Mina is shuffling through the children's clothing racks, and she feels this little tug on her skirt.
Yeah, cool little monitor there at the beginning for the intro, which this clearly is 3D question mark with heavy like depth of field, but I'm not 100% sure. This could be real,
Bada bing, bada boom.
but I don't know. I would assume there'd be 3D models.
Mina is shuffling through the children's clothing racks, and she feels this little tug on her skirt. And she's asking her son, "Okay, yeah, what is it, sweetie? Do you need something?" There's no response. So Mina pulls her eyes away from the clothes and she looks at her son. He's like 6 years old at this point, and his eyes are bulging out of his head. He looks petrified. And she's like, "What's wrong?"
I was talking about like she's just straight into the story, and I'm like, are we in media res or is this just like the beginning of the story? Also, I can't help but be like, what is in your hand? What are you holding? Hello? What is that?
And this little kid, he's Korean. He says, "Oma, we've got to go home right now." "Why? What's wrong? Do you have to go potty? Like, I'll be done in 10 minutes. Can you hold it?" "No, the ajoshi said that we need to leave right now."
The what? The what said we need to leave?
Mina looks around. There's definitely nobody near them, and there's definitely not a middle-aged man. All of the employees at this children's clothing store, they're young women. So she's confused. What ajashi are you talking about? Like, I just need to grab a few more things.
And Ajashi is a old man.
Old middle-aged man.
Okay, so that's what we mean by kind of assumed that is what was going on there.
Yeah.
And he looks
I don't know what this random guy in the background is. I'm guessing just someone who typically is around on these videos, I'm guessing. I don't know if this is live. It feels live because of the guy in the background talking with her. I'm not sure, but maybe it's not.
looks up at her again and says that ajashi right there told me to leave. And he's pointing into the air. Mina looks, and there is nobody.
So I'm guessing this is supernatural with that. Because they're saying some ghost of some old man is telling this child to leave. And we're going to see if the mom believes. I mean, we're hearing a story from this perspective, which means that someone here has to live, which means the mom and the child probably live, and they leave whatever's going to happen to this death mall. Though we're going off of the rule that kids are more acceptable to the supernatural, because if you want to go that route, it's like they're the closest to death, because if there's a before being born and it's similar to being dead, well, then they just stopped being that phase and now are alive, so they're the closest to death, seeing as though they just came from death. I know that sounds confusing, but maybe you understand what I'm saying. So I'm guessing we're going with that because it's a child, it can see this ghost, and it's telling the mother, let's bail, we need to get out of here.
She says, "Are you sure you saw an ajashi? What did he look like?" He keeps saying he was bleeding. He keeps trying to hug the nice cashier lady. Mina didn't leave because she's in this very fancy luxury shopping mall, and maybe kids just make up some things. Maybe
Okay, so mom didn't leave, so how do we have this story?
he wanted to go to a toy store instead. Maybe he was bored.
I'm guessing maybe they did end up living at least.
Maybe he wanted to go home and watch TV. It just didn't make any sense why there would be a bleeding man in the middle of this store. I mean, this mall is known for, you walk in, very normal to see coats going for $1,000 a coat. Table tea sets going for $8,000, $9,000. People dressed up to go shopping at this establishment. There certainly weren't any middle-aged bleeding ajashis trying to hug cashiers.
What's the time frame for this? Because obviously the malls have been like a dying breed for a long time, right? So I'm assuming this is a new mall. This is possibly in the past. Plus we have footage here that looks like it's ancient as well.
It's just not that type of place. But these were the rumors that would float around Korea even to this day. Children dragging their parents out of this mall, talking about how they saw a bloody man telling them to get out. How they saw bloody people climbing onto workers' backs, trying to almost get on their back like a piggyback ride. There were rumors that children were being warned to stay away from this mall. Because very soon, over 502 people would be dead and 30 people would go missing inside of these very walls.
Okay, she said 30, but I'm guessing she meant 40. Oh, see, that's what I'm saying. Was this in media res? Or is that just the beginning? That must be the intro to this. And then now, it felt almost in media res, though. Oh, Rotten Mango. Intro
As
again.
always, full show notes are available at rottenmangopodcast.com. This is another Korean case. We had multiple Korean researchers assist in gathering of the facts on this one. But as always, please let us know if there's anything that we didn't cover or something that got lost in translation. I mean, it's a huge case, so I'm sure it's bound that we're going to have things that we didn't touch up on, but just let us know in the comments.
So yeah, is this a podcast then? Because that's what it felt like. This was something not being... It felt like it was live-ish. And like even like with the guy chiming in the background, felt like this is something that's being done live, if not like a podcast. If he hears that mic again, like again, it even sounds like his mic might be like podcasty slash radio show quality, but I'm not sure. We'd have to hear him again speak. We'd have to hear him speak again.
So with that being said, let's get into it. June 29th in South Korea is almost peak summertime. I mean, almost every single person that walked into the Samplung Mall.
Wait, hold up. Roll me back. What? Where are we at? June 29th.
Let's get into it. June 29th in South Korea is almost peak summertime. I mean, almost every single person that walked into the Samplung Mall said the same thing that day. 왜 이렇게 더워? Which is, why is it so hot? Like, why is it so hot? A lot of people were coming to the mall to avoid the heat outside. And usually these massive indoor malls, they blast the AC during the summer. You walk in, you feel that ice cold air smack you on the way in. Not today. The mall was more humid, more hot, clammy. It was so hot, it was difficult to breathe inside of the mall. It's like the AC was broken. The workers are profusely sweating, apologizing to the customers. Sorry, the AC is broken. I'm sure it's going to turn back on any second now. And despite all the heat, about 1,000 people were inside that mall.
Oof. So half of them, we're going to assume, died then? At least half got out, right?
When the whole thing came crumbling down.
Was there too many people in? Did it collapse because there were so many people? Because they all escaped the heat to get inside? And just like tanked the entire building? Couldn't handle it?
Everyone had 20 seconds to get out of that mall. That's all they got. 20 seconds is the length of the happy birthday song in Korean. If you had 20 seconds to, do you think you could go from inside of the changing room, inside of a store, get out of the store, down the hall, to the emergency staircase, down the stairs to the ground floor? Let's say you're 4 stories high, 3 stories, fine, right? And at least a few more steps further to avoid impact. Could you do that in 20 seconds? So Pyongo, he was a 막내 at his job, which means he was the youngest amongst all of his coworkers, which is why all the colleagues kind of like took it easy on him when he was pouting and whining the whole day. He's like, it's not fair. We work at the restaurant on the 5th floor. The AC's broken. All the other restaurants on this floor are closed. Why are we open? Why are we the only one? On top of that, I mean, do customers really want to eat right now? It's so hot.
So the AC just broke that day.
Yeah, all day it had been off.
Okay, so
Yeah.
it's not like ongoing. It's
No.
just it's okay.
That one day.
So I'm like trying to think about what happened here. So again, we got 1,000 people in this building. Don't know if it's secured for 1,000 people. So it came tumbling down. So we have like a couple factors being in play here, which again, over the weight limit, possibly. Too many people just fell on top of itself. In combination with the heat, we're not doing any like heat melting beams here discussion, but just like the heat. What was this building made out of? Could the heat have weakened the infrastructure of this building to cause it to collapse? Or, I mean, since it just instantly collapsed, I'm gonna assume it wasn't a fire, because obviously for the fire, people would know that there was a fire happening, and it would take time to burn the entire building to the point of collapsing. So I'm guessing the heat was just so strong, it did something to the infrastructure? I don't know.
So he's in the front, keeping himself busy, when the head chef runs out from the kitchen. Get out, get out, get out! Pyongo's like, okay, I'm not even gonna look up. He just casually says, okay, give me a second, like I just need to finish this up. The chef runs to Pyongo, pushes him on the back, and says, you idiot, I said run. And he looks up and he sees people booking it. Like there's like 5 customers, they're booking it to the emergency stairwell.
Hey, before I let this go, it was a weird anecdote to be like 20 seconds is all they got, and that's the exact length of the happy birthday song in Korean. So I wonder if that has anything to do with the story, or if that is just a random like factoid about that she just wanted to throw in there about the Korean culture. Just their song happens to be 20 seconds.
So he starts jumping over chairs, jumping over tables, trying to join them at that staircase. He has no idea what's going on. He just knows that they're all running. And as he's running, one by one, the lights, the recessed lighting in the ceiling, they're shattering. and it's getting darker and darker, and Pyongo would have 20 seconds to make it out alive. Jiwon, let's call her Gia, was another employee at the mall. She worked in the basement level, so she sold crystals at one of those like home goods shops. And that day, she took her break early because it was so hot. I mean, she felt like all day, if she even moved fast, if she even thought fast, she would break out into a full-blown sweat. So she tried to move slowly, reserve this energy. She had to fight every intrusive thought that she had to not just walk out of that store, quit, and never look back. That's how hot it was. She takes her break early, and as she's walking back into the store, the manager, Unni, which is like an older sister, right, starts running towards her screaming, "Turn around, run, run!" The last thing Gia remembers were these little broken shards of crystal flying at her, and she didn't understand what was happening. Just that all the crystals in the shop looked like they had exploded. Gia would have 20 seconds to make it out alive.
They were really harping on the 20 seconds thing here. Looks like we have a lot of if we want to call them, a lot of main characters here that are being applied to this mall here. How many more are we gonna get? How many more point of views, I guess? I mean, she said there was 1,000 people, so technically we could have like 498 point of views of what happened inside this store, this mall. Well, less than that because there's 40 are still missing. So still,
19-year-old, let's call her Sarah. Sarah had just graduated from high school, and now she's working at one of these high-end children's clothing shops, basement level of the mall. She wasn't even supposed to be working that day. Her colleague called her and was like, "Hey, can you switch shifts with me?" So she did. She was coming back from her lunch break when she felt something really strange. There was a cold wind. It felt really nice because she had been sweating in this hot, humid, dank basement floor all day without the AC. But did you just catch on?
Well, yeah, why is there a cold wind, right?
Exactly. She works on level B1, the basement floor. There's no exterior doors that could be opened to let in a breeze. It was a strong breeze, too. And the AC wasn't back on. Sarah would have 20 seconds to make it out alive. There is a man, 21. His name is Choi Myung-seok, but we're going to call him Michael. He actually started working at the shoe store in this Hampung department store. He was studying architecture, but he just needed to make some extra money on the side.
I wanted to see how long ago this was. She posted this a year ago.
And he was on his shift when everything went dark. He didn't even have 20 seconds to run. Nothing registered in him. It was just lights out, literally, figuratively. When he woke back up, everything was pitch black. He was laying on cold concrete. He's basically boxed in by concrete. He couldn't move. On the sides of him, there was concrete. Above him, there was concrete. Below him, concrete. He just had to lay there in a fetal position, having no idea what had just happened. There was no light, no food, no water. He tried to kind of push up against the jagged concrete, but he was worried that any sort of movement would cause the concrete to completely crush him.
Okay, so yeah, we're talking about someone who actually is trapped in the rubble of the building, which means someone probably, I mean, the fire department probably was able to rescue him out of this situation.
Even the air supply felt stale, dusty, and limited. The panic starts to kick in. He's like getting claustrophobia. And in any other situation, I think that this would have been terrifying. But he started hearing a woman's screams. And she's screaming, "Save me! Save me!" He said that he felt kind of happy that he wasn't alone in the dark. So he starts screaming back, "Hello?" There were now two voices responding back at him. So one was Lee Sung-yeon, a 25-year-old woman that worked in the kitchenware shop, also on the first basement floor, and an ajumani. So that's like an older auntie customer.
So these are a lot of like basement workers, right?
Yes.
Is it because there's a higher chance of survival? Oh my
Everyone on
gosh.
floors 1 through 4.
Yeah, I mean, she kept talking about the basement and the basement. I don't know if, again, what happened here, if the basement is what collapsed or not, but I'm guessing it was just the upper floors that collapsed and the basement held.
Unless they were out of the building, they would die. So they were all trapped. Just like Michael, the ajumani the woman, they're all trapped. The ajumani could barely talk because she was actively being squashed by the concrete, like on her chest.
Ajumani is
The customer,
she's
an
a
older woman.
yeah.
Yeah. I would say maybe like 50s, 60s. And she told them in all these gasp breaths, like, there's a heavy piece of concrete on my chest. I can't talk. So the two, Michael and the other kitchen shop worker, they tried to help her not panic so that she's not going to hyperventilate, because there's no way for her to even like take in a big breath of air. So in small breaths, in very kind of like she's drowning, she tells the others, my daughter turned 30 this year. And there was just this lingering silence, because it's a reminder of everything that was outside, and they don't know what to say to that. So they fall silent. Michael feels these tears coming down the sides of his face, and he says, then let's get out alive.
I can't tell, but it sounded like they started playing a very subtle music on cue of the woman talking about her daughter. I can't tell if that's what just happened there. Like they're trying to set the mood even more for the story.
And the three promised each other, okay, us three, we're gonna get out alive. And then everything went black again. Michael and the others, they kept falling asleep, coming to, falling asleep, passing out. I wonder if it's the air supply that was cutting them off. It was hard to even gauge how long they had been in there. Michael asked the others, hello? How long have we been in here? The 25-year-old worker responded, but her voice sounded really weak. I think a day, maybe 2. I don't know. It feels like a week. Ajumani, are you okay? Silence. And then they started panicking. Ajumani, you have to wake up. You gotta wake up. Your daughter just turned 30. Michael would never hear her voice again. She was gone, and she would never get to see her daughter turn 31. Not long after, the 25-year-old kitchen worker called out for Michael and said, Michael? Yeah? I think I'm gonna go now. Please tell my family I love them. Michael said that after that, the fear of death had never been so strong. Like he could almost taste it. It gripped his entire being. He said it's very hard to explain. He had never felt anything like that. He was all alone. The 2 others that had, quote, survived, they were now dead. He felt like it was only a matter of time until he died, but it's a slow, agonizing wait. He started feeling delusional from the anxiety, the hunger, and then all of a sudden, he just felt so thirsty. He didn't even feel scared anymore. It was all he could think about was water, thirst. It's like he was going crazy. Right at that time, someone answered his prayers. While he was feeling delirious, water started dripping onto his head. He didn't even know if he was dreaming. He genuinely thought, am I hallucinating? Like, you know, when you see the lakes at the desert and you keep walking towards it? He thought it was that. But he scooted so that the water would drip directly into his mouth instead of his forehead. And he started drinking the disgusting water that was dripping into his mouth. He felt around with his hands in the dark, and there were these few pieces of like dusty, I don't even want to call it like paper, more like cardboard boxes. And he grabbed them, wet them in the water, and he slowly laid there, ripping it, shoving it in his mouth, chewing and eating it. He was so desperate to just fill his stomach with anything that acid was just killing him. Now, side note, the water that he's drinking and that he's wetting this paper with, it's not fresh water or even tap water. It has been through layers of concrete, dust, rust, and that's if there's no dead bodies on top of him. It was very risky water, but he had no choice. And that is what he would do for the next 11 days. That's almost 2.
Yeah, I was not expecting it to be 11 days. So that means the other, well, the young lady or whatever is actually dead. So it's just like, it's kind of crazy to be like, okay, I think I'm going to die now. Goodbye. And then just that is actually just what happens. So I don't know not how nutritious, but how let's just say how nutritious cardboard is, right? Because that's what he's eating. I mean, all you really need is the water, right? Granted, it's disgusting, but yeah, you only get 3 days, right? If you go more than 3 days without water, you just die. Period.
2 full weeks. In silence, alone in the dark, eating rusty, wet paper. It was dead silent for Michael. He had no idea that on the other side of all these layers and layers of concrete and twisted metal, there were thousands of people trying to save him. All hell had just broken loose. This was happening on a random Tuesday afternoon. There were commuters, office workers, families driving near the mall, out walking on the streets. They hear this crazy, almost deafening noise. They look to their left. I mean, some of them it's their right. And this entire shopping mall, one of the most iconic buildings at the time, because it's like this salmon pink color. Everyone knew that Sampung Mall, right? Pancaked. This mall that was 10, 20 stories tall now looked like a 1-story building. Pancaked. A pile of rubble. It wasn't even like an avalanche where, which I know those things happen very quickly.
Wait, hold on, roll me back.
A 1-story building.
I'm guessing that's all the destruction, but what is this pink here? 'Cause you said
Pancaked.
the building was this pink color. So what part of the building is that tanked whatever just happened? Clearly, whatever that's made out of did not care about what happened. It stood its ground. I'm not sure what even part of the building that is.
A pile of rubble.
Is getting to zoom out further. Did this hit the signs? Are these like apartment buildings here? And then same thing there? Or just like business offices or whatever? I'm guessing they didn't get hit. But why is there so many people on top of these roofs? This is scarier. Like, not scarier, but like this is spooky to me. Like being on this several hundred feet high building with on the edge. There's probably no guards on this thing because why would there be? Why would you be up there in the first place? Like, this is spooky. Being up there.
Rubble. It wasn't even like an avalanche where, which I know those things happen very quickly, but you watch those videos and you see things are slowly falling and you can't stop it, but it comes closer and closer. This was 1 second the building is standing up tall, totally fine. The next second, it's on the ground.
Wait, I want to talk about what? How did they build this building then? Because like something had to cause this. I don't know if we're going to get to that. Because we're only 15 minutes into this and we've been recording for half an hour. This video is an hour long, so I'm assuming it's going to come in eventually. I don't have like too much to like interject with, so maybe we can keep this video pretty short. Because I was expecting it to be like 3 hours long, like me recording this and just constantly talking over. But because we're being told a story like this, it's kind of hard to interject. So I think the video won't be too long. Maybe like a couple hours, maybe less than that.
All you see are skies. The first thing on everyone's mind was North Korea. We are under attack.
That didn't even cross my mind, but of course I'm not Korean, so of course it would never cross my mind.
This is a full-blown war. North Korea is attacking us. So a lot of people are running away from the building because they don't know, is North Korea going to attack another building? But a lot of people were running towards the building to try and help anyone they could. And it was like a group of zombies were seen walking out of the mall. Their faces, their hair, their whole body was white, like powder white. Some of them had even patches of bright red blood on them, but the rest of their bodies, powder white. Even their eyelashes were white. It's like someone threw bags of flour at them. There was so much sand, rubble, cement, particles in the air that anyone within an 80 feet radius from the mall was covered in white powder.
Wow.
At this point, breaking news is playing on every single TV station news network. Sampung department store has just collapsed. There are an estimated 1,000 people inside at the time of the collapse. As of right now, investigators do not know the cause of the attack. There is speculation that this could be the work of a terrorist attack by North Korea. Hundreds of ambulances, fire trucks, they rushed the scene. About 4,000 official personnel. So, I mean, you're talking firefighters, police, soldiers. They start arriving at the scene. They bring in helicopter cranes, heavy machinery, and the whole situation was so tricky. There's two main issues that the rescuers are confronted with. So the first being that the left and right edges of this building have not collapsed.
That's what I was talking about. Like, for some reason, they just tanked whatever the heck happens and did not get destroyed. But I'm guessing she's going to say they're going to be worried about them collapsing too. Like, that's the problem. Is that a garage here? Those look like cars. Like here, here, and here, that looks like 3 cars. I was wondering if there's like a garage underneath this building, and again, that's why it would have collapsed. It did like sink down at least 1 floor into the basement. Though it could be even further since there was like 4 basements. I don't remember how many floors this building had. This is the picture. Yeah, people skipped this. Like most replayed is right there. Yeah, 1, 2, 3, 4. Yeah, it looks like there's 4 layers underneath. So this could be collapsed several. Like the entire basement could just be flattened down. But there's just so much building caked up that it looks like it's 1 floor. But like if you removed all this stuff, you would see that it actually flattened all the way down to the bottom. It's just there's so much rubble here that it's piled up to the ground floor.
It's like someone cut out just 2 edges of a cake and then squashed the middle.
I was going to say it's like a cake. And I think that's only because the building's pink. That's why like the imagery of a cake comes to mind. I was literally thinking cake.
But the sides are standing and now they're starting to kind of tip each way.
So they're gonna fall and hit some people. Is that?
Yeah.
Okay.
So if you're standing in the middle of this rubble trying to dig out people, this falls, I mean, people are gonna die.
Oh, and they can't even. Can they even knock it down?
No.
Because that will fall on
Yeah.
more people.
More people. So at any moment, it's at the risk of collapsing. I mean, it's like a domino waiting to topple over. It looks like a strong gust of wind could take it down. It's dangerous. And the second problem was, even though that we have all of this heavy machinery, right? We've got the helicopter, fork cranes, none of it could be used. The experienced rescuers, they point out, if we use this equipment and we're not precise, if there's someone underneath a piece of concrete, the machine could easily squash them. Or let's say we're trying to pick up that concrete, we could literally rip someone in half with a crane. We could literally rip their head off. Have you ever played pickup sticks? You know, you get the same size sticks, you throw them.
Who in modern age even knows what pickup sticks is? How old is this woman? Is she a peer of mine? Because I'm pretty ancient, right? But like pickup sticks, how many Zoomers and Gen Alphas out there know what the heck pickup sticks is? Like, Jesus Christ. I haven't heard that term in a long time. We had like pickup sticks. We had like this other thing too. We had one of these tubes too that had a bunch of sticks you put into it, and you have to like pull them out. I forget what the objective was with pulling these like thin plastic sticks out of this plastic tube was, but I don't know. Yeah, like pickups, like Jesus Christ, what a deep cut. That is like ancient cut. Like Jesus Christ.
Them and then you have to take each stick out without moving the other ones. That's what this was a game of. And the stakes were really high. The rest.
I think the tube that I'm taking of was like 3D pickup sticks on top of that. Like you have pickup sticks, but this tube that I'm talking about was like 3D pickup sticks. Like you have to pull the stick out without causing any of the other sticks to like fall down or whatnot. So it was just like a 3-dimensional version. Like how people talk about like 4D chess. This was 3D pickup sticks.
Rescuer said, I mean, people are going to die if we don't do this right. So the only way to save people was to use light machinery and go by hand and just pray that the edges of the building would not collapse in on them. So originally, the morale amongst rescuers was very, very high. I mean, it would be a miracle if anyone survived, but they at least had to try. But once they got to work, They said, they noticed so many mannequin parts that were under the rubble. So looking from afar on the street, they could see like arms, legs, and torsos just peeking out from the rubble. And it's unsettling, but it's like, it's to be expected. It's a shopping mall. But once they lifted layers of concrete,
It was a mannequin.
they were people. The night before Michael was trapped, security guard Ian was alone doing his rounds.
Okay, we're just introducing another protagonist.
And he wasn't nervous. There's cameras everywhere, big, massive gates that are closed at night. Nobody ever tries to break into one of the top department stores in Seoul. But still, it's 3 a.m. and
Is that how you say Seoul? Show? I don't know how she said it. It was just so quick, I didn't even realize she said Seoul. But I've never heard like someone who actually speaks Korean say Seoul, which is like what? Souel, or however that word's spelled. I forgot, but something like that. Which is like obviously a place in Korea.
empty building is kind of creepy. All the mannequins are practically glowing under the dim lights. And he has to walk from each floor to each floor, and like the echo of his footsteps, that's the creepiest part. Every step, it sounds like someone is walking behind him. And he's walking through this newly renovated hallway when he hears like this groan. It sounds like one of those fantasy movies where they have like monsters or dragons that are groaning or hissing. And he freezes. Okay, there's no alarm sounding.
Okay, so the building was creaking, is what we're getting out of that. Because obviously, buildings will make sounds when they're like shifting or moving, etc. So I'm guessing it's just like one big shift that the building made to make this kind of growl.
So he can't be a robber, and that's not even like a human noise. It sounded like it was coming from the top floor. So he speed runs all the way up to the 5th floor. And so earlier I said the building is 10 to 20 stories high, right? Mm-hmm. It's 10 to 20 apartment stories high. But because it's one of those fancy department stores, it's only 5 levels above ground, but each level you're talking like crazy, like 30-foot ceilings.
So double the regular.
Yes, double, triple. So he's running up to the 5th floor and he looks up, he sees all these restaurants that are closed. And at first glance, everything seems normal. There's no one hiding. There's no shadowy figures, anything like that. And then he sees the moonlight reflecting off the glass of the restaurant. But not just even the moonlight. He sees the moon reflecting off. He's like, that is so weird. And he looks up. There is a giant table-sized hole in the ceiling. It looked like someone or something had taken a bite out of the ceiling. This is the night before the collapse.
Okay, so the building shifted in a way that caused the glass to shatter on the ceiling.
Now, if you ask any Korean person, if you had a time machine, what would you do? What was the first thing that you do with a time machine? An overwhelming majority of them would answer, I would go and buy up all the land in Gangnam. Yeah. So 50 years ago, if you purchased land in the city of Gangnam, which is like the Beverly Hills, the Upper East Side of South Korea, you would be part of South Korea's ultra elite today. But how would you even know to do that? 50 years ago, Gangnam was not a fun, glamorous place. It was kind of more of a dangerous place. Gangnam is south of the Han River in Seoul, and back then the rich people only lived above the river. They never lived below. Anything below was considered not that classy. But somehow, this businessman by the name of Lee Jun, this influential rich businessman, he worked in the South Korean government. He had ties to the American CIA. He owned a massive construction company, and he focused on doubling his business every year, which is insane. To double your business every year, that's crazy. He mainly did this by buying up land in underdeveloped, not so desirable areas like Gangnam and turning it into what it is today. And side note, he's not that smart. He's not a real estate whisperer. He was a high-up government employee, and he would get word that the government wants to develop Gangnam or this area of Seoul, and he would just go in and buy a ton of land. Most of the time, he would just flip it and sell it back to the government at an inflated price. But he was going in when Gangnam real estate was selling for less than $6 a square foot. Now, it's about $1,000 a square foot. I did some math. That means if you bought an apartment that's about 1,500 square feet, that would have been about $10,000. Today, that same land, that same piece of land, $1.5 million. So Lee, with his insider information, he bought over 2 million square feet in Gangnam back when it was dirt cheap. But he's like, you know what? Why would I sell this land back? I should develop it. I should do something. There's new fancy schools coming into Gangnam. Like some colleges are coming in. We got some private schools coming in. We got all these. So Gangnam is kind of known as like the new money area. The old money Koreans actually still live above the river, they say. In Gangnam, you've got all like the lawyers, doctors, like the professionals moving in. So he's like, I need to make a department store.
Okay, I was trying to see where we're going to go with this. So is this the mall then? Is this the death mall? Or what? Because I didn't know where we were going with this anecdote of this guy buying up all the land. And if the mall was in fact in this part of the area. I didn't really like letting it just play for so long there without talking about it, but I just needed to get to a point, and there we go. He possibly made this mall. But then it's like, okay, he made the mall. Why did it collapse? Like, where was it built? Under like some plates or something that just shifted wrong, or did it not have like the right kind of infrastructure to keep it from collapsing due to earthquakes or strong winds, etc., etc.? Because obviously, the big skyscrapers are supposed to be meant to bend, right? So that when the wind blows, they don't actually like collapse. Because if it was too stiff, right, it would just cause it to snap, possibly. I don't know, but like they're meant to bend back and forth. I'm wondering if this building was like high enough to like be affected by the wind too much. Okay, I think it was just the heat though. We didn't have any confirmation of wind. It was just heat. What was it? We still need an why did this happen? But again, we have like what 50 minutes left. We still have an hour almost of this video to go. So.
Because what do new money residents like? They like labels. They want to show people they have money. So back in the day, you know, Korean stores, you go there, it's utilitarian. You go and you buy what you need. I'm going to make it super aesthetic. I want it to be a one-shop stop. I want them to come. It's a social event. They eat dinner. There's fancy restaurants. There's a fancy supermarket. I want everything in there.
Well, I mean, the building itself didn't look that fancy. It was a pink box. That's not really that appealing to look at, right?
So he gets this construction company called Wooseong Construction. Apparently, they're actually really good. They've got a very clean reputation, or relatively clean.
Minus the death mall collapsing.
A lot of people vouch for their durability. Like right now, if you see new apartments, it might even say like Wooseong Constructed because people really like it.
Okay, yeah, assuming they built this mall, then they still have such a great reputation even after what happened to the mall. It's kind of crazy for that to still be a thing despite what happened there. Like 500 people have died and you still have a great reputation. I mean, if it's the only issue you've ever had, then sure, but still.
So Lee tells Wooseong, I want a 4-story commercial building. They're like, okay. They start drawing out the plans. They start building the building. And halfway through, they've got the main foundation up. Lee walks into their office, sits down. You know what? Let's add another floor. Make it 5. Better number, right? 4 is a bad number. 5 is good.
Okay, well, she's not going to explain this. I'm assuming it's still a problem in Korea. 4 being a bad number is kind of like a, I think it's an Asian thing, but like a Japanese thing, slightly Chinese thing too, right? Because 4 is she in Japanese and Chinese too, because I think they share the exact same number sounds. And she, it also could be yon, but she is sometimes used for 4. And she, if you didn't hear me say it in a different video prior, she is also the word for death or die, etc. So 4 is considered a bad, an unlucky number, a cursed number, etc. So you don't want to use 4 for things. So that is what I think she just meant with him saying 4 is like not a good number or whatever. I'm guessing that's what it is, because 4 is bad. It's bad luck in Asian cultures. But clearly it would have been good luck in this place, because possibly the 5th floor is what caused this eventual strain to be too much and collapse. So literally the opposite of what they typically feared with the number 4 happens. Like 4 would have actually saved these people. Potentially.
Woo-sung is looking at him like, are you dumb? You cannot just add another floor. That's not how it works. If you want another floor, we have to start over. We have to bulldoze everything down and start over. If you add another floor without altering the current plans, the building would have way too much weight and stress on the foundation, and it's going to be compromised.
Yeah. So yeah, foundation collapsed.
So Lee gets up and says, okay, well then you're fired. He goes and he hires a new construction team, one that has a very hard time saying no to him. His own construction team.
Okay, so this is why they have a good record, because it wasn't their fault. It was the businessman.
He acts like he is the construction engineer, the architect. If you say no to him, you're fired and potentially blacklisted from the industry. And so they made his ultimate dream come true. His team built the Sampung department store. It would be the second biggest department store in the nation at the time. And it would bring in insane amounts of money. The first year they were open, they were projected to do about 150 million in revenue. That's calculated with inflation. The second year, they doubled. 300 million a year in revenue. Sampung department store was built with the intention that you don't have to go anywhere else, okay? Everything's in these 2 buildings. So there's building A and building B, and they're connected on each floor by these long hallways.
Yeah, notice that the mall still had possibly like half of it still open. Like just that one cube, pink cube. I don't know where it was, where she showed the 2 pink sides. Like in between the 2 pink sides. Well, not in between the 2 pink sides, but like in between the 2 pink, I don't know, frames, pillars that are still standing, that's collapsed inside. But there's still something going on the left side of that image, wherever that was. I'm assuming that's the second building.
But the hallways are not the width of building A and B. So it looks like, kind of from an aerial view, it looks like 2 squares with a short line in between, like a short stick connecting them. Now, you don't ever have to leave the building to get to the other one, but it's interesting. Building A was the mall. The 5th floor would have all these fancy...
Yeah, here we go. That's what I was saying. Like, this is what collapsed, I'm guessing. And then, yeah, we saw this from the other way around. But yeah, these were the 2 pink pieces that were still standing. And this was what collapsed, and this is the thing that was off to the side. So yeah.
Sit-down restaurants. You can meet up with your friends before you go shopping. And then the 4th floor, luxury household goods, fancy wine glasses. 3rd floor, men's clothing. 2nd floor, women's clothing. 1st floor, foreign imported goods and cosmetics. Now, there are 4 basement levels. B2 through B4, they're more for like storage, machine rooms, parking spaces. And B1 is kind of open to the public. It's a mall. So a lot of Korean malls, they have supermarkets on the basement level. So you literally run all your errands. This is kind of genius. They also have cheaper food courts in the basement. So more like food stands. So B1 is open to the public, and there's always a lot of customers and workers shuffling in and out of that floor. Now, building B is more commercial real estate. So you got office buildings, you have a gym, but that's about it. Not a lot of foot traffic, not a lot of aesthetics. It looks like just your office plaza. Okay, so what's so wrong about it? Here's what's wrong about it. The escalators. Most buildings, and I never noticed this until I was researching this, but there's usually 2 escalators per floor.
Yes? Question mark? I don't know about that, though. I don't know what she means by 2 escalators per floor. I live near a mall, and I've been to it a lot of times in my lifetime. I haven't been there in, I don't know, 14 years, unfortunately. I probably would be going there every day if I was actually going outside like a normal person. But I think, just like from memory, like I feel like it had more than a couple escalators per floor. Granted, I don't think it had that many floors to begin with. That's 2 floors, maybe a 3rd for like the movie theater. I think the movie theater is at the very top, but the rest of the place is just 2 floors, and it's really complicated. You have that floor, then you have the 2nd floor, then maybe the theater floor. But the bottom floor actually connects to the river, because there's a river walk here. And so you can actually just go outside and be like out at the river, like immediately from the first floor, like in the middle of the mall. It actually just goes out into the river.
Mm-hmm.
But I think there's like more than like 2 sets of escalators. Maybe it's just a Korean thing. I'm not sure.
Like 2 going up, 2 going down, especially big malls. And I always thought, okay, so it's more people can go up and down the escalators, manage the traffic, right? And I'm sure that plays a role. But a big reasoning behind it is apparently having 2 escalators going up and down on either side helps distribute the weight better.
Okay.
Okay. Well, it's a thing, okay? Apparently having 2 escalators on a floor helps distribute the weight, making it safer. And Lee said, actually, no, that's so expensive. I just need 1.
Okay, it only had 1 escalator. So I was gonna say, like, I'm pretty sure the mall that I know of has like more than just 2. So it's just like about weight distribution, which yeah, of course, that's fine. Because I feel like there's like 1. I would argue there's like 3 going up to the 2nd floor, if not more than that. Like 3 sets, like 3 or 4 sets just going up. Because I could think of 2, 3. I think potentially even more than that. So yeah, I'm gonna say there's like at least 3, 4 plus escalators on 1 floor. But again, that would be a good thing, right? Because it's distributing the weight more.
So he kept putting just 1 escalator on each floor. In massive buildings, especially commercial buildings, there are these giant rods in the middle of the open space. They're load-bearing columns. They're there
Yeah, I was gonna say, why do you call them the rod? Just call them like the professional name.
to hold weight. So if you walk in to your local mall, you're going to see these giant round columns. It's drywalled. It looks pretty. But you're like, oh, why is this here? It's blocking my view. It's to hold weight. Like there's no way that you can have this massive room and just have 4 walls. Well, the original plan was to have 31-inch thick columns. It's about 2.5 feet thick. And inside, you can't see it because it's covered in drywall, but there's supposed to be 16 steel rods supporting the weight.
Mm-hmm.
Lee said, let's make the columns less than 2 feet thick because I don't like big columns. I want to be able to see the merchandise. And why do we need 16 steel rods? Let's do 8.
Okay, so smaller size, half the rebar. I'm guessing when we're talking about the steel columns, we're talking about rebar. So less rebar, less size. So, I mean, this plans to like collapse from the get-go. But is this something he said? He's saying it, she's saying it so matter of fact, like he's being so nonchalant about this. You'd assume he got in trouble for this, and then this is like his admission to what was going on. But maybe this is just the what's the word I'm thinking of? The testimony of the construction workers talking about how he was saying it. So maybe it's from their point of view why we have such like a specific nonchalant explanation of how the building was built.
This is a huge deal. The steel rods are what's holding up the weight above it. People take lack of steel rods so seriously. Recently in Korea, a apartment building company, they put in less steel rods than they were supposed to. They were exposed for it, and now that building is called Boneless Chicken Apartment Building. Yeah.
There's still a building.
Yeah.
Wow.
So I think it's up to code, but it's not as good or as much as other builders do. So they're called Boneless Chicken Apartment Building. Because why are you not, like, steel rods, seriously? Lee said that he hated the idea of thick columns, so let's cut it down. But that's not...
Yeah, why? Like, you hate the idea of thick columns. Like, who cares? It's just a column. Like, the aesthetics that important? I mean, of course, you'd assume maybe they are, but like, really? The columns are the thing you are bothered with the most when the thing is literally just 2 cubes attached by some hallways? That's your problem? When you just made a pink box attached to another pink box?
It's not the only thing that he skimped out on costs. So this is going to get really complicated, but just like bear with me, it's so important. When you have a flat ceiling and a column right up against it, it's called flat slab construction. Or at least in Korean, that's what it's called. It looks modern, it's faster to build, it's cheaper, but it's definitely not safer. It can cause something called a punching phenomenon. Imagine you've got a piece of paper and you're holding it down on a pencil. The pencil could easily punch through into the piece of paper.
Yeah.
Now, if you were to stick another circular piece of paper on the point of the pencil and then stick another paper on top, it's much harder for you to stick through, even though it's just paper. It's very hard to punch through 2 layers. That's the drop panel. That's what it's called. So think of it as, instead of walking through the mud with sneakers, you're walking through with heels. The difference is massive.
Yeah.
Your heels are going to poke into the soil.
Yeah.
But Lee, rich businessman, owner of a crazy lucrative construction company, says, should be okay. He knew that this was a bad idea. He knew this was dangerous, but it saved him money. So he was all aboard.
Yeah, again, it's kind of crazy. You have so much money, but you still need to keep saving more money. But that's just how things go, right? Gotta penny pinch as much as possible to make as much money as possible for no reason whatsoever. Capitalism, etc., etc.
He said, you know what, it's fine. Columns are strong. But they're not, especially when you take out half the steel rods, like half the skeleton of the column is now gone. But the worst, the biggest hazard of this whole building was the 5th floor. It should not have existed. The building was not designed to hold the weight of another floor. It sounds like, it's just another floor, but that is an additional 25% of the overall weight added, if not more. That is huge. At first, he told his team it's going to be for a roller skating rink, which honestly would have been
What?
a lot safer.
Would it have been? I guess depending on what they put on the top floor, because it was a roller skating rink. What kind of material do we need on the ground outside of ice? I don't think you necessarily need ice. You just need some sort of like floor that can be rolled on. But then that's a lot of people just like gathering up on the top floor into one spot. Like doing a lot of like possibly even just jumping if they're doing any like nonsense. I don't know about that.
Less traffic, not as much furniture, but
Again, like if there was like less stuff there, it'd be fine. But still, that's a lot of people plus whatever the heck the rink is made out of to begin with.
instead, he said, you know what makes more money? Restaurants. Restaurants are insanely heavy. Commercial ovens, commercial walk-in freezers, industrial-sized refrigerators, lots of water. Lots of water is heavy. Since there's going to be multiple kitchens on that floor, I mean, you're talking AC up there is going to be intense. Restaurants are also more densely packed than a roller skating rink. The entire weight distribution and calculations were going off the walls. You know those big Amazon delivery trucks? Well, the weight of the 5th floor was about 100 of those delivery trucks. Imagine parking 100 of those on the roof where it should not be. That's just the 5th floor. That's not, and he wanted to do heated floors for the 5th floor.
Why the 5th floor? What year is this that we're like, oh yeah, let's get some heated floors? What? We were talking about heated floors in this year? Whatever this year was?
Which added 2,415 tons of weight. Just for heated floors. And on top of that, there was even more. So the roof of the 5th floor on Building A were these giant AC cooling towers. They weighed 87 tons each. There's 3 of them, so the total of that, to visualize, imagine sticking 2 houses on top of the roof of a mall that is already unstable. This is crazy. Just on top of the roof. Now, here's where things go really wrong on the roof. So firstly, the AC towers on this specific roof is a death wish. The vibrations that the AC creates, it only further destabilizes.
Yeah, it's probably doing a lot of damage to the columns themselves and just the infrastructure in general, just constantly being vibrated on like that.
The building's foundation. That's what causes cracks, vibration, movement. And so since the get-go, like opening day of this mall, they could see the red flags. The vibrations and the weight of the heavy AC cooling towers, they were causing water leaks onto the 5th floor. Because the water would leak out of the AC, there would be a crack, and it would flow through. But the biggest atrocity of what they did on that roof, the AC towers were facing towards a nearby apartment building. All the residents of that apartment building were like, the AC towers are so loud. We're filing complaints. You got to do something about it. So they had to move the AC towers to the other side of the roof.
So they literally pick them up and move them somewhere else to the other side. So we've done all the damage to this side of the building. Now let's do all the damage to the other side of the building.
Now, to do something like that, what do? You have to call in industrial cranes. You got to have a ton of professionals on site to make sure that it's done safely and securely. It's a pricey relocation. Lee, very wealthy mogul, said, too expensive, get a couple of dollies.
Wow. So there's just
How? How are you gonna dolly something that weighs that much? Sounds crazy. So again, that weight is just being moved throughout the entirety of the roof. Then at that point, since the weight is being carried on the surface of the roof from one side to the other, instead of being picked up and moved to the other side. I mean, being moved to the other side was so bad anyways because you've already done structural damage to the, let's say, left side, and now you're going to do structural damage to the right side once they're installed and vibrating the other side. So it's still bad either way. But then on top of that, of structural damage on both sides, you've put damage in between them too by having to move them manually from one side to the other.
scooped it over.
They didn't even scoop it because there's no dollies that can carry that much weight.
That's
They
what I'm saying.
basically dragged it. And if you see pictures of that roof from like opening year, there's cracks all over.
Wow.
And now they move the ACs to the other side. And what do? They vibrate and cause even more cracking now to even the other side of the building. Now here's where it gets kind of unexpected. This one I wasn't expecting at all. One of the first stores that opened up inside this mall actually contributed to the collapse. A bookstore. Did you know Korean books are even heavier than foreign books because they use a higher portion of stone powder in the paper? A year and a half after opening, the bookstore would be relocated from the second floor of the mall down to the basement because that bookstore was causing so much damage to the building from the sheer weight of the books and the shitty construction. If this had been a well-built building, there wouldn't have been any damage.
So they've realized
Yeah.
something is happening?
Yeah. There were cracks all over the second floor.
What?
There was bending in the floor. There was drooping in the floor. The floor was tilted where the bookstore was.
Wow. And nobody
Yeah.
did anything.
No. The entire building started to lean a little bit. And all it would take would be 20 seconds for the entire building to crumble. And literally not a single part of this rescue was easy. End of June in South Korea is typically a very rainy season.
I guess we're getting out of that now. We can like the bookstore just sinking the building even more. Wasn't expecting that, but I mean, books can add up, right? Enough for them. Like really, like just had to cut corners for every single corner. Like this was a circle. Like all the corners are cut to make a perfect circle here at this point.
The rain was pouring down on the rescue efforts.
Oh, I was like saying, wasn't it supposed to be really hot? So this is like the afterwards it was raining, which I'm guessing is how he was able to, assuming Michael is what we called him, assuming he got to live. Well, I mean, he had to. You can't tell the story without someone having the anecdote to be told that the rain is what he was drinking. So he kind of was lucky that we had some rainy season come in, even though it's June. But I guess that's just normal for them to get a lot of rain. It actually is raining. It's been raining here recently, which has been weird for like 2 days straight, I feel like. Instead of being, like 120 degrees like it's supposed to be, it's been raining.
I mean, in theory, it might have been good since when a building collapses, there's always small fires trapped inside the rubble. You've got open electrical wires, you've got appliances, and poisonous gas, they start to spread, which, pretty quickly could kill any survivor that's trapped inside that manages to find an air pocket. So the rain, in theory, would have been helpful, but it was just a massive inconvenience. Like, the rain was not enough to put out the fires, but it was enough to slow down the rescuers. Firemen had to come in and try to calm any potential flames. And the first 16 hours of rescue efforts, 5 people were rescued. So there was some progress. And unfortunately, one of the survivors would die on the way to the hospital. Then, 24 people who were trapped in the same air pocket were rescued. They were pulled out by rope. Nothing was going smoothly. I mean, they pulled them out, but there were still hundreds and hundreds of people that were unaccounted for. And the rescuers were nonstop sprinting from place to place. They're crawling inside of holes that are already unstable. They're shimmying themselves through the collapsed basement level, squeezing past these broken shards of glass beams, like shining their flashlight into whatever nook and cranny they could find, screaming to see if anyone survived. They would dig holes the size of a kitchen sink and just start crawling in there. They'd put their lives in danger for every second that they were there because they just wanted to save people. A lot of the people in the mall, because it was a Tuesday afternoon, were young moms and children. The family members.
It's been really, really young children. Because I was on Tuesday, I mean, people should be at work and children should be at school, but I'm guessing really young children.
Members of the missing and the victims, they all gathered. They tried to help. Random civilians that had no family members in there, they were putting their lives on the line to help save people. Retired doctors grabbed their white coats and went to local hospitals because there were way too many people coming in. A ton of ajumas, middle-aged women, they were too old, too frail to dig, but they created these organized groups and they would cook for the thousands of rescuers every single day. But ultimately, the morale for the rescue teams was dying, which sounds bad because, how can your morale die when there's a chance that others need saving, right? But they're working themselves to the edge physically and mentally every single day, and all they're getting after the first initial groups of survivors is bad news. They're just getting bad news. Another body, another body, another body. 10 days had passed, and it's the rule of 3. Do you know the rule of 3?
I don't know what she's going to say here with the rule of 3. Maybe I know it. But I would have to hear it to know what she's talking about.
No.
3 minutes without oxygen.
Okay, so 3 oxygen, 3 whatever, probably 3 days without water. And then
3 days without water, 3 weeks without food. And you'll die. It had been 10 days. No food, no water, limited oxygen, and potentially injuries on top of all of that. The rescuers thought, okay, maybe it's time to go from rescue to recovery. The faster, the better. July is peak monsoon season. It's only going to get worse. We got to go. People said you could smell rotting corpses even if you were blocks away from the site. They started bringing in the heavy machinery. The chief of police asked all the family members who were still present at that site, come on, we got to do one last go before we bring in the machines. Call your loved ones. We can't hear anyone. Maybe we can hear their phone. And so all of them are standing around with their phone, calling their missing loved ones.
Okay, so cell phones existed at this time period, because I swear she has not mentioned the exact year that we're in right now. But cell phones exist.
And they're just trying to listen, but they can't hear a single thing. The U.S. actually would donate these sound detectors to help rescuers find the phones underneath.
Though, cell phones being able to live for we're at day 10, right? He gets, assuming he gets found, that's day 11. Could a Nokia, if that's what we're talking about, how far back we're going, could a Nokia last for 11 days without being used? I don't remember how long batteries lasted back then. I don't know if it was 11 days. I don't know. I don't know if that's possible.
The Korean government was already equipped with heat sensors, which is typically used to locate bodies. But the heat sensors, they work with infrared light. And when it rains, the raindrops scatter the infrared. And it becomes wildly inaccurate. 11 days had passed. And now rescuers were like, okay.
Can you actually use a heat sensor to find a corpse? Because being alive is what makes your body heat actually exists. As a corpse, you're going to be cold. I guess if you're looking for something cold, then I guess a heat sensor would work. You just gotta find the cold part. Like a cold shape of a body, I guess. A body shaped cold, etc., etc.
No one survived.
I guess unless the body's still warm-ish, because it's a fresh death, if we'll call it that, then sure.
So let's bring in the machinery. Michael thought that he was going to die in there. But on the 11th day of rescue, a rescuer stopped, he blinked, he scrambled, grabbed his flashlight from his back pocket, and flashed it into the hole. Hello? Is anyone there? And he put his ear up against the hole, and this tiny little voice says, I'm here. The other rescuers, they don't even believe him. So he's like, come, come, come. And they all make him say, I'm here again. And everyone starts swarming. I mean, 11 days in, they had to penetrate an extra 4 feet of thick reinforced concrete to get him out. He was out at 8:30 a.m., 230 hours after the collapse. He was carried out on a stretcher, and he waved for the cameras. Volunteer rescue workers, they're all cheering, they're all clapping. I mean, this was the victory that they needed. They're like, take the machines off. We're going back to hand. If Michael survived, there could be others. Meanwhile, Gia did not share this excitement. She thought she was going to die. For the past few days, the concrete on top of her face was coming closer and closer and closer. It was pure torture.
Who is Gia? I don't know who this is. I don't think this is the 25-year-old she said that was dead, because she would have kept talking if it wasn't for that. So I feel like this is someone new protagonist.
The air was getting stuffier and she felt panic. The walls are literally closing in on her, but in the slowest way possible. She wanted to scream like, oh my God, just squish me already.
Wait, she's the 25-year-old?
No,
Oh.
a different worker, yeah.
Oh, okay.
That's what I'm saying, because the 25-year-old's already dead. We already came to the conclusion that she died. She just inserted a new protagonist out of nowhere.
Okay.
Now, the anxiety of it about to come down was worse than just dying, she said. I mean,
Did I say antagonist? If I said antagonist, I didn't mean I said I meant protagonist.
she was buried in a pile of concrete, laying on her back, so her legs were trapped under a concrete pole. And she was thankfully in an air pocket, but she can't move. So at first, Gia is screaming her head off, hoping that people can hear her. She's like, hello, I'm here, I'm here. But nobody came. So she just said she kept falling asleep. That's all she could do. I don't know if her brain forced her to sleep. She just said, I kept falling asleep. I kept dreaming that I was home. I just wanted to go home. And I kept thinking, oh my God, my dad is sick. My mom is worrying about me. And now I'm going to be even a bigger burden. 58 hours passed. So like 2.5 days in. Remember the rule of 3? 3 minutes, 3 days without water, 3 weeks without food. 2.5 days in, she's so thirsty. At this point, she can't even think about anything but her thirst. And water starts flowing. And she takes a sip and she immediately coughs it out. She had rust water coming in. She waited till more water came in, and instead of letting it flow directly into her mouth because it tasted so disgusting and rusty, she grabbed a piece of her clothing, soaked it in the water, and then
I guess she was filtering it through her clothes.
just kind of wet her lips with it. She had no idea how many days had passed. All she knew was she was starting to hallucinate. The part where her legs were trapped, she felt like her legs were walking. She felt like her legs were floating at one point when it clearly wasn't. She was like losing her mind. She was losing sensation in her legs. She just kept going back to sleep. And then the next thing she knew, there's heavy machine sounds and the concrete's just getting closer and closer and closer. Would they push the concrete until it completely suffocated her? Would they push the concrete till it squished her? Like, what's going to happen? Would the excavator just come down and rip her up? Her bottom legs are stuck, so she'd be ripped in half. Gia felt terror. Sheer terror. She only had like 10 inches left when all of a sudden she hears a voice. Stop! Stop! Do you hear something? At around 2 p.m. on the 13th day.
Wow.
There were 13 days in. Even past Michael, or whatever his name was. Whatever the name she gave to him was. I'm assuming that's not his name.
Wow.
A rescuer saw her foot, and they yelled, if you're alive, move your feet. Gia tried to wiggle her toes, but she didn't even know if it was wiggling because she lost sensation a long time ago. And she screamed, save me. The rescuer clawed through the cement by hand, and Gia just remembered thinking, I'm found. She said it wasn't, I lived. She didn't say it was, I survived. She just thought, I'm found. Good. I don't care if I die right now. Because at least they found my body so my mom will know. Her mom was later interviewed and asked, like, what is the first thing you want to say to your daughter? And she said, do I even need to say anything? And they were trying to ask, like, did you think your daughter was dead? Because it had been 13 days. And they said, did you think she had? And her mom stops the journalist and says, no, I didn't think that. I'll never think that because the day she dies is the day I die.
혹시 죽었으리라고 생각 안 했어요?
안 했어요. 안 했어요. 진짜. 걔 죽는 날이 나 죽는 날이라고 나는.
After 285 hours, Gia was rescued. And at that point, the ceiling was so low, it was touching her nose. She was not even inches, but centimeters away from death. And everyone was like, okay, that's crazy, right? But there's no way there's going to be more survivors. There's only so many miracles that the universe can give us. On the 15th day, another woman is rescued. Let's call her Sammy. She was trapped in a small pocket of air in the children's clothing section. She heard the voice of her colleague screaming, "Help me!" And she just kept screaming, panicking, "Help me, there's this concrete pinning my waist down." She was getting crushed. And there was no way Sammy could even get to her. And she tried telling her, "It's okay, it's okay." But after a day or two, there was no more noise. Sammy said, all she did was try and fall asleep. She had no idea how long she was in there. Sammy would be the last survivor found in the rubble. There would be no more miracles after that. Before we get to the depressing recovery,
What do you mean depressing recovery? Aren't we already at that point? Hasn't it been depressing the entire time?
South Korea did try to bring up the morale of the country and the 3 survivors. So Michael, Gia, and Sammy almost became these beacons of hope for people. Michael was seen as this national hero for not only somehow miraculously surviving in the rubble for 11 days, but also his iconic wave on the stretcher. Companies started offering him gigs to model for them. Schools were offering the 3 full-ride scholarships. There had been this stereotype that the younger generation were weak and not as tough as their parents in South Korea, but this was completely obliterated, this idea. And just like Michael, Gia, the one who survived 13 days, she made headlines because when she was pulled out of there, reporters asked her while she was on the stretcher, "How do you feel? Any plans now that you've been saved?" And she said, "I want to go on a date with the oppa that rescued me." Oh. And people thought it was such an unhinged, hilarious, fun answer to such a serious, depressing situation. The last 3 survivors were asked, "What food do you want to eat the most?" Michael said, "Coca-Cola. I want to drink an ice cold Coke." Gia said, "Iced coffee." Sammy said, "I just want some ice cream." Every soda, iced coffee, ice cream brand went nuts trying to sign these 3 for brand endorsements. Gia also kept making jokes. Like, nobody knew if they could keep laughing or not. When she was rescued, she complained, "Why'd you guys come so fast? I could have stayed there a few days longer."
Guess before we get too far away from that. So, not that I have any, hatred for capitalism or anything like that. I don't even think about capitalism, but I know people, actually take that seriously and really, really hate capitalism. But capitalism is what caused this tragedy to happen, and yet, the irony of these companies being like, we got to sign these guys, obviously just so that they can make more money. It's like, yeah, money is what caused this to happen to begin with, but let's try to make more money off of what happened. It's like, I'm not explaining it right, but you understand what I'm saying. It's this dark joke of this all happened because of money, and yet here we are trying, with the people who did survive this, we're trying to make even more money off of them on top of that, even though money is what caused this to begin with.
Let me go back in there. Michael had to have his head shaved to run some tests, and he was so embarrassed. Anytime reporters ran into his hospital room, he would put on his little beanie, his little hat. And I think that these are the stories that people wanted to focus on, because the other side was just so dark. Side note, almost all the rescues, especially the ones that weren't immediate, they were all subground level, so they were all in the basement. The other floors, this is a picture of what it looked like. There was no way that people were going to survive that collapse, unless maybe you were on the roof, which probably not even then. Pyeongo, the magnate working on the restaurant floor of the 5th floor, he was rescued pretty early on. He had made it kind of basically out. I think he was hit by just some debris. And he said, every single person I spoke to that day, the head chef, my colleagues, customers, I would later see all their names written on the deceased list. Another survivor said, I just don't understand the point of life anymore. Like, the people that died, there were nice people. There were really rich people. There were workers like me. There were people who went to church. There were people who studied really hard. Yet everyone died without even a chance to fight for their lives. So what is the point of anything at all? Families of victims said the nightmare was just never ending. I do want to say that the rescue efforts were admirable. The rescuers, they did everything. But the system itself was flawed. Korea didn't have a strong system to respond to these types of crises.
I was like, what do you mean by didn't really have a good system? Because like all the videos she's showing seem like, wow, they are really trying to save these people.
Which, like, I don't know if they still do with after Itaewon and Seoul, but at the time, it was so disorganized. Family had no idea if loved ones were alive, survived, deceased, at a hospital, which hospital. Nobody had a clue. The site was left open for people to just come and volunteer. And so a lot of people did come and volunteer, but there were also a lot of hyenas. What do you think the hyenas did? They were dubbed hyenas by the media. About 400 hyenas were arrested during rescue efforts.
Arrested?
Families are crying. Rescuers are risking their lives.
They're stealing stuff.
They're pretending to help and stealing designer goods.
Ah, okay. I didn't know what she meant exactly by hyenas. Like scavenging off of them, or because we could consider the like Coke company and the soda companies and the ice cream companies as hyenas, like because then they're trying to make a buck off of a tragedy. But I guess we just mean like looters.
Wow.
When one was arrested, they just callously responded, well, they were all going to go to the dump anyway. Another man was caught volunteering wearing 10 pairs of designer pants. 10 pairs.
I mean, he put on 10 pairs to be like, as he was stealing them, he's just putting them on to try to hide them.
And asked, why the hell were you stealing 10 pairs of designer pants? He said, what are you talking about? I was saving lives and I got cold in the middle of June. So I just put on whatever was near me. Meanwhile, Mr. Jung was at work when the building fell. He's an attorney, and he didn't hear about it until way later. He was at a 회식 with his coworkers, and they were drinking, they're eating, and he just had this pit in his stomach when people were like, oh, you didn't hear about the mall? So his wife and his 3 adult daughters, they loved going to that mall. So he calls his wife. She picks up, and he's like, oh my God, thank God. Okay, you're home, right? Are the girls home? Did you hear about what happened at the department store? She's like, what? No, the girls are there shopping. Mr. Jung's coworker said that he didn't even say anything. 1 minute he was on the phone, the next minute he was out the door. He ran on foot to the department store, and all he saw was rubble. He started climbing on the rubble in his suit, just clawing, looking for his girls.
Would they allow that to happen though? Like they just like, oh, this saw guy just run up there and try to go through the rubble, and they're just like, okay, that's fine, just go ahead. Because of course we're still in this safety issue with the 2 pillars on either side. Well, building B and then the other pillar. I don't think the left side pink thing would have fallen over just because it was connected to the B side building, which didn't collapse. It was A side that collapsed, and it was just the right side pink thing that was a problem.
He went to every single hospital in the city. He talked to nurses, doctors, looked at hospital morgues. The day after the collapse, he would be told that all 3 of his children were dead. And he said, after what my wife and I went through that day, I just hoped that the sky would fall and the earth would give out and we would just all die. And of course, he feels for every single daughter, but he really felt for his eldest because she had fought and beaten all odds. His eldest daughter went blind when she was 12 years old. She worked harder than anyone he knew, harder than all of his adult coworker colleagues, attorneys combined. She ended up getting her master's in special education at UC Berkeley in the United States. She came back to teach special education at Seoulde, which is the best school in the entire country. And her dad said she couldn't see in front of her, but she just always had a vision. And she fought all these odds to be here, and now she's gone. There was another family, the Lee family, and Mom Lee, Mrs. Lee. She was telling her daughter for months, like, give up the dreams of the department store. And her daughter told her, no, if I'm going to be a fashion designer, I can't just rent a small shop anywhere. I have to make a big statement. I'm going to get foot traffic. I know it's a lot of money, but I've saved up my entire life savings. I'm going to rent this tiny little shop. It's my dream.
I guess we were talking about inside the Pink Mall. I don't remember what it's called. Songpok or something like that. That's probably not right. Right name. I probably shouldn't even said that, but something like that, right? We keep referring to the Pink Mall. They saved up all that money, right, to get a shop in here just for it to all come crashing down.
And she signed the lease 2 months before the collapse. And Mrs. Lee said all that nagging she did, completely forgot about it. Because the minute that she saw her daughter in that shop, just how much passion she had for what she was doing, how could she not support her? She was at her shop when the building went down. And this part is so dark, but it feels really raw. A lot of families reported feeling shame and guilt afterwards because they were all there. And when survivors were being found, they would see survivors reunite with their families. And they said they would feel intense jealousy.
I mean, that's pretty normal. I don't think that's like anything crazy. Like, you're jealous that someone else got to get their loved ones back and you didn't. You can get jealousy, envy. I would assume even like hatred would boil out of that in some cases for some people.
Because it's only human. And then immediately they would feel so ashamed for feeling so jealous, and it made them feel so gross. But they had this like, ugh, that should be me. So after the last remaining survivors were rescued, the government decided they needed to start clearing out the debris. They said it was dangerous to just have it out in the open, so they just started moving the rubble to dump sites. And a lot of victims have not been found yet. So families were at dump sites by themselves, no rescue workers, digging through the rubble. At that point, some of them only found bones. And if there was any flesh, they were unrecognizable. This mall had been built 6 years ago. It wasn't even around for, I mean, you go and you look at houses in LA, there's houses from like 1920s still up for sale. So for it to collapse, injuring over 900 people, killing 502 people, and resulting in 40 people that are still considered missing to this day, it doesn't make sense. The public is like, we want answers. It was revealed that the building was not attacked by North Korea or a group of terrorists. There was no earthquake, no natural disaster. The building went down on its own, so obviously there's some sort of human error. So they found the owner, the Lee family, and journalists start hounding him with questions.
Basically, how long is it going to take for them to actually be like, okay, what did you do? Why did this happen, etc., etc. So is the story going to end with him getting in trouble, or is he just so rich it doesn't matter? Like 500 people dying doesn't matter. He just gets away with it.
And look, the way that this man answers questions does not help him in the eyes of the public. They said, did you do a safety inspection on the building? Mr. Lee said, look here. We've got many people coming in and out of this building. Do you really, think about it. Do you really think if we knew that the building was going to go down, we would keep it open? Of course we did safety checks. It was received by the president of the building. I am the owner. I only attend meetings once a week. So you'd have to ask management to clear up those answers. In other words, we have no motive to keep the mall open if we knew it was going to collapse. But as a company, it's not just about injury to customers. It's about company property. He's comparing 502 people dying to losing a mall. I think it's clear what he's trying to say. Of course, everything was great and we knew nothing about this, because think about it. From our standpoint, would it be logical to ignore such a big safety concern if it would ruin our company? But the delivery was disgusting and nobody believed him. He would also try to argue that if the building was so dangerous, why was he in Building B when it collapsed?
Was he in Building B? I mean, Building B, nothing happened to it, right? So it was kind of fine, but was he even in there? Was he just making that up, of course? All he's saying is just this, I don't know if it's egotistical, but just, he doesn't know how to talk right in these kind of situations. I mean, hopefully he gets in trouble because he can't talk right, but just standard I'm better than everybody else kind of talk, right? Because he just thinks he's so high and mighty from having so much money, etc.
But he
This-
survived.
Building B did not collapse because Building B had sturdier columns because
It was also smaller. It looked like it was smaller than the building A.
it wasn't a mall, so they didn't need to display merchandise. They didn't have all this heavy machinery. There was like no one in there also. They didn't even have the massive AC units on the roof. And this whole argument backfired when it was revealed the reason that Mr. Lee was even in Building B to begin with was because there was an emergency meeting about whether or not the mall should be evacuated. That's what they were doing, debating whether or not to close the mall when the mall collapsed. The meeting lasted for hours and executives were arguing. So Lee and his son, who is the president of the mall, they were arguing that it's going to
President of the mall? Because then he obviously made his son the president of the mall, but like president of the mall? In what universe is that even like a proper title to have? I'm the president of this very specific mall. What?
be bad for business. The board of executives were arguing it doesn't matter because if the building collapses or even if a ceiling falls through and a customer gets injured, that's going to be bad for business. A few executives left mid-meeting because they got calls of complaints by store owners that like ceilings were crumbling. Literally during the meeting, they left. They went to investigate. They went onto the rooftop. One of the executives saw one of the columns punching through the roof. He turned to his colleague and said, "Get everyone out now. F*** Lee, I don't care. Get him out." They were on the way downstairs when the building went down. The other executives and the Lee family were still arguing when all hell broke loose. People are sprinting towards exits. People were being pushed into clothing racks because now you could hear the groaning. Like once that
Is this like a dramatic reenactment? Is that what this is called? Because there's no way they have like this kind of footage of this. This is like clearly like recreated, right?
groaning hit, you had 20 seconds to get out. Some people were in their underwear just making a run for it. They had been caught in the middle of changing. Now they're booking it. If Lee hadn't cut even more costs and had there been more escalators, more stairwells, more emergency exits, more people could have been saved. Because now there was almost a crowd crush situation on top of the collapse. A domino effect took over.
And by crowd crush, if you don't know what she means by that, just like being trampled by other people in a panic. Like so many people trying to escape in a certain direction that some people fall over and just get crushed and die from just being ran over by other people trying to escape.
The 5th floor ceiling fell through and now it was on the 4th floor, holding the weight. But that was about to crumble and then soon the 3rd floor and it would just all pancake in 20 seconds. Nobody had a warning. It looks like one of those aluminum soda cans that you step on. The executives in the Lee family heard. They ran out, ran to the hallway, and it's just a cliff. And they see the building on the ground. But still, Chairman Lee acts like he knew nothing. Okay, whenever he was interviewed by journalists, he would make it about himself. One journalist asked if he had anything he wanted to say to the victims' families, and he just said, "Do you think I wanted this to happen? I have nothing to say." What's crazy about all of this and this whole family is that Lee's daughter-in-law, so the president of the mall, his son's wife, was in the building when it was collapsed. She was rescued early on. She refused to give her name to rescuers, and people thought that was weird. The rescuers were like, "What? Like, you don't want your family to know that you're okay?" Everyone that could talk was giving their name so that your families can find you. But the very next day, they saw that same woman they rescued on the news standing next to her husband and her father-in-law, showing her full support.
Wow.
So a full investigation on the
I mean, obviously, if you're in that kind of situation, I don't know, understandable, but not. It's just like human instinct, right? Assuming she's just not necessarily, I'm not gonna say that's a bad thing, but assuming she's with them because they have so much money, like it's kind of one of those situations, it's like just being evil just because, like, are you gonna choose nothing, or are you gonna choose sticking with a person who has like $1 billion, right? I don't know. I'm assuming that's what just happened. Like, maybe she actually just loves them, and it's not just that, and it isn't just I don't want to lose all of what I obtained from being with this family, etc., etc. But it could just be like she just genuinely loves them, even if that is pointed in the wrong direction.
Cause of the collapse was ordered by the government, and it revealed a lot. I mean, obviously it revealed all of the things that I've mentioned before, but on top of that, Chairman Lee was known to constantly change the interior of the mall, like he was just changing clothes. He would rip out perfectly acceptable lighter wood floors and put in super heavy marble flooring. He did not care about durability. He wanted it to look expensive because more people would come and they would shop and he would make more money.
This was over 6 years, right? She said this thing had been around for 6 years, I think. It took 6 years to collapse? Question mark.
That's all he wanted, more money. He would knock down interior walls to like make more space for merchandise. And with all the new renovations, there were more customers. And it's not like the building crumbled out of nowhere. There were literal bright red warning signs that the Lee family and the executives, they were made aware of. 2 months before the collapse, a thin line emerged on the ceiling of the 5th floor. It was more of an eyesore than anything, but every now and then, tinkle, tinkle, there'd be dust landing on people's faces coming from that crack. Like, that's kind of crazy. If you were dining at the restaurants, your chopsticks would slowly roll to the side and off the table because the floor was tilting, but all the customers thought, oh man, what's wrong with this table?
I mean, that is a heck of a tilt. That's not just like slightly slanted. That is like you were about to fall over slanted. That is like the Titanic sliding to the side over. Like, hello?
No one thought it was the floor. No one thought it was the building that was leaning. Workers on the restaurant level, they would put in a container of raw veggies on the fridge shelf. It's like an industrial walk-in fridge. They would walk back in and it's like slid all the way to the wall. They'd put it next to the door. It slid all the way down to the wall, like 5 feet down to the wall. Why would it be sliding? That didn't make any sense. The floor of the 5th floor was tilted at a 15-degree angle. The tilting got so bad the 5th floor restaurants had to be closed. They requested civil engineers to be called in for an inspection. And the main person that called was Lee's son. So he's there with the inspectors and they're like, yeah, this building is in imminent danger of collapse. The only option that you have in situations like this is to evacuate, close the entire building down, and we can game plan on what the next steps are.
So they already know this before.
Way before.
Yeah.
Like 2 months before.
So yeah, they knew this building was going down 2 months ahead of time, which is like even worse, right? Like really, you knew it was going to come down 2 months, and you're just like, oh, we still got to make that money. Got to keep making double the amount of money we made last year every year. Got to keep going. Don't care about anything else. Just need that money.
And he's like,
It's weird to hear about something like this outside of like America, right? You'd expect something like this happen in America, but maybe not. I don't know. But to be like so obsessed with money to allow something like this to happen, and it's not America, that's crazy.
Okay, let me think about it. He didn't think about it. Instead, he hired workers to just hide the cracks by adding more grout and plaster. He was like, as long as the customers don't see, because this month was crucial for them. June and July were the summer sale months. This is another illegal thing that they're doing. In South Korea, you can only have a sale for 2 weeks. I don't know why. I guess it's so that stores can't like try to manipulate you into like buying things, right? 2 weeks.
They undercut other stores.
The sale is scheduled for July when everybody else has the sale. But the Lees were like, we can be smart. We're going to get our VIP clients early access. So we're going to sell them the product since they're our VIPs, we know them. And we're only going to run their card at the sale prices in July. But they can come during June. And they had a lot of VIPs. So June was a very busy, high traffic month for them. Crazy busy. 10 days before the collapse, a customer was sitting at their table on the 5th floor to eat, and the whole thing started shaking. She said it was so strange. She thought it was an earthquake or something. But when she told her friends that we're not the mall, they were like, what are you talking about? There was no earthquake. There was nothing on the news. 5 days before the collapse, another customer was on the 5th floor eating when it felt like someone doused a bucket of water on their head. And she's like, what the hell? Looks up. There is like a droopy hole. It's not even just a hole, but like a part of the ceiling that's drooping down.
I know exactly what she means. Please, for the love of God, do not show a bubble like a ceiling bubble, because like ew. Because I've seen pictures of that. Like I think when Texas froze over, and like all the pipes busted, like the last few years, whenever that happened, people were showing like a lot of like their ceilings bubbling up full of water and then bursting. It's like ew. Like I don't like holes in places they don't belong. So it's kind of like tryptophobia, right? But it's like more than that. It's just like it's not just like the weird skin thing they try to show you, which is not too big of a deal, but like anything like that, like bumps or holes in places they do not belong, they do not go there. I don't want to see it. So I swear to God, she puts a picture of what she's talking about. Oof, I'm gonna be upset. I mean, I'm a grown man. I'm not gonna care too much, but still, I don't want to have to see it. Like, show me anything. Just don't show me a bump in a ceiling or a hole in the ceiling, or water.
Down at the
Specifically,
end,
don't show me water damage. I hate water damage.
there's a hole. The employees were made aware of it. They tell upper management, and they're like, it's just Sampung's shitty construction. They did not think that water leaks were even in the same possibility as a building collapsing. The night before the collapse, the security guard noticed the sinkhole in the roof, and he called Lee's son and was like, sir, there's a literal sinkhole on the roof. And apparently the son went himself to check it out, and while he's standing there staring at this giant hole, one of the managers of the restaurant comes out and is like, hey, I've been trying to call you for ages now. Look at this shit. Look, can I show you something? They walk over to one of the columns on the 5th floor near his restaurant. There's an 8-inch long crack that's knuckle deep. But that's not even all. The manager is like, I've been waiting for this, okay? I'm paying all this money, and look at that ceiling. Look at that ceiling above the kitchen. It's droopy. And look. He puts his phone on the counter, like the cash register of the restaurant. It slides off. He's like, I know it's not my counter, so what's going on? Lee's son checks his watch. He's like, shoot. The stores are about to open for the day. Okay, just why don't we close down all the restaurants on this floor? I guess if you want to stay open, you can stay open, but it's fine. Close down. We're going to figure it out. We'll send up maintenance or something. Maintenance workers were sent up, and they're like, guys, this shit is going to go down. Like, under no circumstances can we put plaster on anything anymore. Like, it's going to go down. Lee's son left the building for about 30 minutes before he was called back in, this time to the 4th floor. A shop owner said, I just heard these like really crazy like tuck, tuck, tuck noises. And then the
How or like he's just here, just seeing everything that's like just adding up. He's like, money over everything else, right? Just like what is the coincidences of just like everybody in the ground mall just throwing their complaints at you, and you still like, nah, I'm good. Open it up.
whole floor shook for like 3 minutes. They're like, isn't that right, Susie? Like 3 minutes. And Susie's like, yeah, 3 full minutes. Lee's son is like, okay, let me investigate, right? Before he could even figure it out, water starts pouring down the walls of the 5th floor. That's why they turned off the AC units. He said,
That's why it was so hot, and that's why the ACs are off, because of this water issue.
you know what? Don't close them all. Turn off the AC units and drain the water inside of them, because that's what's leaking. And then 4 hours before the collapse, evacuation orders were given. Lee's son said, let's focus on what matters. Don't tell the customers, but let's take out all the priceless goods. Paintings, artwork, jewelry, ancient pottery, super expensive bags. Let's take it out just in case. We don't know.
So 4 hours ahead of time, did they actually do that? Did they actually get all this priceless, I'm doing air quotes, stuff out of the building before it collapsed?
It could flood. It could do something. Customers, employees, they were not evacuated. They had no idea they were in a compromised building. Why?
This is unbelievable. It's like
Yeah.
the guy's doing everything in his power to kill people.
Why did they not evacuate? Because the mall was bringing in about $400,000 a day.
$400,000 a day is nothing. Like I want to say I would understand, but like $400,000, that's not even half a mil. Hold on, say it again.
Because the mall was bringing in about $400,000 a day.
Like $400,000 is jack squat. I was expecting like millions a day. Millions. You're not even getting half a mil a day, and you're doing this?
And they said, we can't lose out on that. Many of the victims died on impact. Others suffocated to death. Others bled out. Some starved to death. And a lot of them drowned to death. When firefighters were trying to put out the fires inside the rubble, the water came in and filled their air pockets. Some of the other survivors could hear them drowning, and the firefighters that worked that scene, I don't think it's their fault. I think they did their best considering the information and tools they were given, but they still have PTSD. They have nightmares about it. They said they will carry around the guilt for the rest of their lives. In the end, the court sentenced Lee Jun, the chairman, to 7
I'm assuming that's the guy on the right, like the main dude.
and a half years in prison.
Excuse
In the
me,
end,
7?
The court sentenced Lee Jun, the chairman, to 7.5 years in prison, and his son got 7. You look
What?
so shocked, right? But this was actually a big deal.
Like 7 and 7.5. Like really, that's it? Instead of like life. But I don't know how prisons work over there. Could they even give life back in the day? Or again, I don't know what the time period is with this. She hasn't really, unless I'm just crazy. I feel like we haven't set a time period. I haven't been looking close enough or listening close enough to hear a time period. It just seems like it's old because the video footage looks like it's like 90s, maybe 80s, maybe even early 2000s.
This is what's even crazier about this case, okay? Is the fact that, to me, I'm like, 7 years, that's nothing, right? In Korea, this was landmark. This was crazy that they got 7 years. I mean, people, don't get me wrong, people were still upset it wasn't enough, but a lot of people being very cynical, skeptical, and just realistic, they weren't expecting the Lee family to get any jail time.
Yeah, I mean, that's what I thought. Like, he was just going to get off scot-free because that's just how it works, right? If you have enough money, you don't go to jail.
Not saying that they didn't deserve it, but that was the track record for the government. The reason why they got a lengthy jail time, lengthy quote, is really dark.
Yeah, lengthy, end quotes. I guess we could take some guesses at what she's going to say. It's really dark. What would make them get a lengthy jail time? Is it because the judge or people who were doing the sentencing for this guy lost family in this? Or someone that has something to do with this trial lost family and they did everything they could to put these guys behind bars? I don't know. That's what I would assume first off the bat, but I don't know where, like, what else could be. Like, just trying to think of something real quick, what it could be.
It's a high-end department store. A lot of the victims were wives of influential businessmen.
So again, the guys who have a lot of money's wives died, and so they needed to put him behind.
To just name a few, and not saying that these people's lives hold more value, but to give context on whose families were fighting for these offenders to get jail time. Wife of Samsung Electronics president, wife of Daewoo Motors president.
Wife of the Samsung
division, electronics division.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, advisor to Samsung Motors and former head of Korea's customs service. Advisor to Samsung Engineering and Construction, executive for Hyundai Engineering and Construction, wives of high-powered attorneys, judges, and doctors, a judge's mother. I mean, these were just a few to name.
Did she say judge's mother? Hold up, roll it. Because that's what I was assuming. It was maybe like the judge.
Executive for Hyundai Engineering and Construction, wives of high-powered attorneys, judges, and doctors.
Yeah. So judges and attorneys were in that list, so I was sort of right. Of course, there's high-powered people, so just in general, but like actual people who could be a part of the trial part of this did lose people, and thus would be like, no, giving you the full hammer as hard as I can.
A judge's mother. I mean, these were just a few to name. Many of these were the upper echelon of society. These were the elites.
And they still only got 7 years.
Yes, and the worst part is netizens speculate, had this been a middle-class mall or a lower-class mall, they probably would have gotten no jail time.
But why though? What how is that?
Yeah.
How, like...
I guess it was a blame-shifting game. So Lee's family would actually shift the blame on government workers that they bribed. So they would say, hey, we didn't pass our safety inspection, but just say we did. And about 30 government workers were fired and arrested as well. So because there were so many people to blame, it became this game of like, who's really at fault? Was it the gatekeeper, the government workers that didn't make sure that the safety inspections were up to date? Was it the yeah? I don't.
Send
I
all
know.
of them to jail.
Yeah.
500 people died.
I agree.
Yeah, I mean, there's all of them. Just go to jail. Do not pass go. Do not collect $200, etc. Whatever the monopoly thing is. But yeah, it's 7 years of which means is whenever this took place, they could be out right now, alive, doing more nonsense business stuff. I assume it is the case, unless like the main guy is dead because he was pretty old there. So I'm assuming maybe he could have passed by now, but still, just it doesn't make any sense. But that's just how it works, right? Again, you have a lot of money, you get to do whatever you want. Sometimes.
Lee was 72 when he got out. He died a year later, so we're not
Okay, so that's what I was saying. He might be dead by now.
too sad about that. Meanwhile, Lee's son, June, is one of the very few families in South Korea, many we've talked about, that are basically socially exiled. They're legally allowed.
I don't know anything about this. Must be a Korean thing that you can actually be exiled. Like modern day exiling? How would you like pluralize that? A modern day exile, exiling. I don't know, but like actual exile in modern day. Roll me back.
Many we've talked about that are basically socially exiled. They're legally allowed to be in Korea, but he is said to have been spotted living in Russia. We don't know for sure, but like the minute he steps foot in South Korea, I mean, nothing's going to
So
happen.
he's still
to him.
around right now.
Yeah.
But he's free.
Yes, but I think that he has no money.
How would he have no money? Did they take it all? The government repossess it or something?
I don't know if he had a lot of hidden money, but the family's fortune was completely liquidated and given
Yeah, it was taken over.
to the survivors and victims' families.
Well, there's at least that, but I'm assuming even if they accrued like millions and millions and billions, we had what 500 people dead. Over 500. We're counting the 40 is missing, so 550 dead, and that's split up like that much money split up between 500 people, if not even more. Like, because it's not just 500 family members of the 500 dead. It's like many of the family members of one person. So that's even more than just 500 people. That's like thousands of people that, or more, that can be infected. So all that money split over and over and over so many times equates to like basically nothing. And it doesn't matter anyways, because the money's not going to bring the loved one back, right? So either way, it doesn't matter.
It's estimated that each family received around 250,000, because there's a lot of people, which honestly is nothing compared to the life of a loved one. But trust me, this is not a story where victims' families get closure. 500 plus people died. Like, that's a tragedy that is going to be felt nationwide. I mean, think about the spider web of people that are either directly or indirectly impacted by this level of loss. Well, the president of South Korea was asked to say something to the victims. And he said,
They called the president of South Korea, not like the prime minister or something. I was assuming to be the prime minister of Korea. Maybe she's just saying that for the Western side to understand what she's saying. But yeah, I was assuming it'd be the prime minister.
President of South Korea was asked to say something to the victims. And he said, the collapse of this Hampung department store today was 21 days ago. I wish for peace for those who lost their precious lives. I pray for the speedy recovery and for those who were injured. And I express my condolences to the families who suffered an unexpected accident. Thank you.
Okay, so just a straight-laced answer, just whatever, just basic press answer.
He's at his podium, okay? He stands still for maybe 2 seconds and he thinks that the camera is off now. And he turns.
Uh-oh, what's going to happen? Okay, he's going to say something crazy. Did he get impeached?
Turns to his aide and says, That should be enough, right?
감사합니다. 그럼 되겠지. 그래.
It wasn't even in the tone of like, oh, do you think I should say more? Like, was that, did I convey my emotions correctly? It was like a, 됐지? Like, I did it. Happy? Let's go.
He doesn't care.
Yeah. A lot of the victims' families were upset at the government and even the rescue operations, not the rescue workers, but the operation. They felt like the government wanted to throw some money at the victims' families, start cleaning up the rubble, and make use of the land again. The victims' families requested a memorial.
So is this place built over now? Did they at least like make sure that all that rubble was excavated completely and there's no corpses underneath this new land, assuming they put something on top of it? Also, are we going to talk about the fact that you said some ghost stuff at the beginning of this video? We haven't had any supernatural stuff since then. Are we just gonna just like pretend like that didn't happen?
Not to give a comparison, but later on this comparison does come up a lot in Korean media sources. But like 9/11 in the US, I mean, that is crazy real estate if you think about it. That is prime real estate. But out of respect for the tragedy, there is a memorial there. You go there you remember these families, you remember these victims, everyone that lost their lives. But the government said, this is such a good area of Gangnam. It's like center. Like every time someone drives through here, they're going to have to be reminded of that. And like, what about the real estate prices of all the people who spent so much money on condos nearby? It's going to go down if we have a memorial here. So they said, we'll give you a memorial. So the family said, okay, then can you give it to us at this park? That's a very famous park that people love to go to. And it's a beautiful park. We can go there and spend time with our loved ones. But that park is so pretty. People will be so depressed if they go there and they see 500 something names. What about in the woods? They literally gave them a memorial in the middle of nowhere. Like just in the mountains.
So yeah, the government really did not care about any of this that would happen. It's just money, money, money. We need the money. Can't stop.
And they built a luxury apartment building where that, yeah.
The Sampo department store?
So luxury apartment building there. It's surrounded by other buildings that look like they could be apartments. So did we really need more apartments when you're already surrounded in apartments? Of course, I don't know if that's true or not. They just look like they could be apartment buildings. They could have been office buildings, for all I know. But still, like, really, a freaking another apartment?
Yeah. One of the victims' families was interviewed, and the mom said, "It's money, money, money. Building costs this money. Cleanup costs that money. Compensation costs money. Let's give money to the victims. Everything is about money, and nothing is about my child." Remember Mr. Jung? Speaking of money, he lost 3 daughters in the collapse, and his eldest daughter was the blind professor at Seoulde. He was compensated over $600,000 for the loss of all of his children, which is nothing. And he gave it all to the Seoul National School for the Blind. Over the course of his life, he would donate more than $1.3 million to churches, schools, and charities that his daughter liked. And he would say, "Money to me is nothing that I can have. My daughters all had dreams to make the world a better place, and I just have to fulfill those dreams before I go."
He said throughout his life, so that implies that he's gone now as well.
And Gia, the one that survived 13 days, she said, "I just hope people can learn from this. That no one should ever have a, it won't happen to me. It doesn't concern me attitude. Because tragedy doesn't really pick people to happen to. It can happen to anyone. It can happen to your child that waved goodbye to you before school, or the husband that promised to be home for dinner. I never thought something like this would happen to me, but it did." And that is the story of this Hampung department store collapse. Honestly, what? What are your thoughts? Please leave it in the comments. And yeah, it's crazy. But please stay safe, and I will see you guys on Wednesday for the main episode.
Main episode. No clue what that means. But that was the Korea's Death Mall. There was something I wanted to say at the end, but I kept letting her talk, and I don't remember what it was that I wanted to say. Oh, I guess we could just roll back to the supernatural thing. But why start with that supernatural comment and have nothing else be supernatural? We can comment on that, since she didn't really talk about it outside of the very beginning and then never again. That apparently kids kept seeing ghosts. We'll say, saying to get out of the building because it's going to collapse. So what kind of ghosts are we saying would be here? Why were they here? If we're gonna go get we're gonna get crazy here. Before we just get into like, 'cause of course this is a sad story. Like this is probably the saddest thing we've seen. It did kind of like be like, oof, this is kind of rough in some parts there. Like especially they do it might be hard for you to hear, but at certain points in this video, she would say something that's supposed to be like a mic drop almost. I don't know how else to describe it. And then you hear subtle piano, like it's so quiet you probably can't hear it, but I can hear it. Piano will start slightly playing in the background to try to like make it even more sad. So like this video was like pretty sad at moments. When you have like testimony of like people who not necessarily survived, but the people who had people who died, like the guy who lost his daughters, etc., etc. They're rolling us back to the ghost stuff. So again, like I said, we're gonna get pretty crazy. If we are going to go, I'm inserting a theory here that time is either a circle or a dot. I like to use the term dot, but maybe it's like a circle or whatever. That it's not like linear. We're just only able to understand it linearly. Is that a word? Linearly? I can't say it. Like we only perceive time as linear, but it could be a circle or just a straight point. So the ghosts that the kids were seeing could have already been the victims of what had happened in the future, because time is just a circle. Everything has already happened, is what I'm trying to say. Like in this theory, everything that has and will happen has already happened. So you can get overlaps in time like that where ghosts in this situation exists. Even though they have not died yet. Because everything that's already happened. So you're seeing ghosts of the dead people who already died. And they're being like, hey, get out of here. This is gonna crash. This is gonna go down. Because they already know it's gonna go down because they have died here. And they're just going back and trying to warn people. Granted, if we're going with times a circle, it wouldn't matter because it's already happened. So anything they do will not change anything. So what else do we have here? Killing Bride. All this. She has a lot of Diddy stuff. Like all of her new videos are just Diddy, which I don't really care about. Daughter of diplomat found beheaded in Nepo babies something. 40 hours of torture. Jeez. A lot of crazy stuff here. Yeah, really rough video. We were able to get 2 hours out of it, which is almost double. I was worried, again, like I said, this would be 3 hours, but the way this is told, or how it's like spoken out, like the story, trying to paint a picture, it's like different than how people usually do these stories, like obviously Crowley and etc. etc. So it's hard to talk about because you're kind of just listening to someone tell you a story. There's not much I can really insert into this. I feel like I'm just saying stuff here and there. Granted, we got like an hour out of that almost. Minus the fact that I did spend 8 minutes talking about other stuff at the beginning of the video. Yeah, I was able to get another hour out of that, but I don't know if that's like good enough. Like, are you people just gonna sit here and watch me just watch this video. I mean, that's reactions in general, right? That's like what I'm trying to avoid. So a lot of times people just watch something and they're not saying anything, and it's just like, okay, you just watch a video with someone sitting in the corner, watching it. Which is why I keep trying to make sure that am at least doubling the length of these videos, which we kind of did at least somewhat achieve here. But I feel like a lot of the times I was just letting the video run for a while, just getting the information. There's not much time to just cut in between. But if this was fine, let me know in the comments, assuming anybody even makes it this far, because I doubt anyone did. I don't really have too much faith that people will sit here for 2 hours and watch all the way to this point. But if you did, you can let me know in the comments that you did in fact do that, and if it was perfectly fine just letting it roll and only contributing an hour to the video on top of what this video did. But yeah, it's just like just money, right? Like they said, it's just nothing but money for this one. I would like to go dive into that supernatural stuff though. I wasn't expecting that aspect, and then immediately have it have nothing to do with the rest of the story was kind of crazy. Just be like, oh yeah, kids are saying ghosts. Anyways, here is like an hour of us talking about capitalism, evil, which I'm not saying that as like a bad thing, but like capital. In this situation, capitalism was villain number one. It was public enemy number one. It is what's caused all of this to happen. It is the obsession with money and getting it by any means necessary. Again, I would like to have had a little bit extra talk about the supernatural part of this though, because that was interesting. I'm up for supernatural stuff. We haven't really done any supernatural stuff in this series yet, and I'm all for that. That's the good stuff. Yeah. We'll see. So next time, obviously, is going to be the Void, and then maybe we'll be back. I forget what the other ones were, but we have yeah, I can't remember what the other two that were suggested were, but maybe we can like flip through them and figure out if there's anything crazy we want to see. Because like this is like sounds crazy. I don't know what this one is. That one could be one as well, but I mean this channel's perfectly fine. The only problem is, like I said, is having to talk through it, which is kind of hard because there's not much to interject with. But I'll keep trying to say stuff. Again, let me know in the comments. I don't think I have much else to say. Oh, wait. Yes, I do. I knew I forgot someone in these kind of like spooky, not necessarily spooky, but just like weird and like top X kind of videos. When we're talking about like Crowley and Lazy Masquerade, and it was like I personally have forgotten this third person. Just before I started doing these videos, I would think about them two when watching them, and be like, "Isn't there a third guy I'm forgetting about?" And like for years, and I just saw the channel again like yesterday or the day before, and it's Blame It on Jorge. I've completely forgot about Blame It on Jorge, so we could add them to the list as well. Because again, I completely forgot about them. I haven't watched them for years because I somehow forgot they existed. I don't know how I forgot, but I forgot. So expect them possibly in the future at some point too, especially if I start doubling up on these videos. Granted, I mean, this video is 2 hours and 13 minutes right now, so I don't think I'm going to be doubling up a video today. But yeah, assume they might be added to the pool of things I watch for this series. But now we can end the video, unless there's something else I've forgotten. But guys, thanks for watching. Remember to buy my stickers, and think about becoming a member, or subscribe if you haven't subscribed. We're going to watch time and subscribers, and we have a throw now as well. And shout out the members, EmmyStarr and RaleyDrew. But yeah, guys, thanks for watching. Tune into the next episode. Like, subscribe, comment. Another do. See you.